This is your cybersecurity awareness training, and the purpose of this is not to make you experts by any means, but it's supposed to make you aware of the security issues out there and how we can prevent a lot of security. So this isn't necessarily for here at work. This is for you, your personal. If you're at home using your computer, you're at a friend's house, these are some steps you need to be cognitive of to prevent any kind of cyber, the bad guys getting a hold of your computer. And it's happening more and more. Since the pandemic happened, the quantity of security breaches has increased exponentially. And the worst one is ransomware. We've had ransomware. It's not something I ever want to do again. On the other hand, it's been in the past, the ransoms were a couple $1,000s. Today, they're going up to $1 million. Seriously. There's a hospital over in Georgia that got ransomed. It was like it's over $1 million ransom they had to pay. And if you pay the ransom, you may or may not get your information back. I've had clients in the past, they got their personal computer ransomed. They lost all their family photos because they didn't have backups. So we're going to go through some things, how to prevent some of this from happening, and what to do if something does happen, how to prevent it from devastating your business or your personal life. So, why is my clicker not working now? There we go. Got to get my focus back as I've instructed Christy. Okay, I've been at this for 40 plus years, so I've seen a lot. I don't know everything, but I've seen a lot. Lately, been working closely with security experts and training. I just got out of a security training last week. 6 years in the United States Air Force. I've got a bachelor's degree in computer science and business. Microsoft servers and workstations. I've got certifications, so I've been doing this a long time. I began my MiTech services. Live, laugh, get hacked, stop laughing. And this is very true. So basically what we're going to go over today is patching your computer devices. Backups, they're a must. It's one of the best ways to protect your data is to buy a backup. I go through a lot of people, they don't do backups. Something happens, they've lost it all. Passwords. The key to protecting it is getting a decent password. Something other than password 123 or ABCD 1234. Two-factor authentication. Who loves two-factor authentication? I don't, but it's a must nowadays. Internet safety and email. 80% of all cybersecurity comes in through your email. You're always concerned about the bad guys hacking into your system. That doesn't happen. You open the door and let them in. Privacy concerns. We're going over what you should keep on your computer and what you should not keep on your computer. And phone scams. Phone scams are a big thing now. I'm getting a lot of those people calling and saying they're, I got one from the Social Security Administration. I get one from Denton County, or Denton City called me apparently and said I had a warrant out for my arrest. I need to pay $5,000 in order to get that cleared. Well, that didn't. In fact, I called Denton County and asked them. They said, no, they started laughing and just said, hang up. But people say, what do I got? Why does a bad guy want to get into my computer? Well, you're wrong. They want to get in your computer because you're the gateway to a lot of other places. You've got credit card and financial data. How many of us use our computer to get into our bank? Practically everybody. You keep some medical information. I've been on some computers, I'll see medical histories on their computer. Computer resources. Bitcoin, as you know, is very popular right now, but how do you get Bitcoins? Well, the bad guys or people are using computers to generate all these Bitcoins that they can mine. They can use your computer as part of their network to mine their Bitcoins. Well, that's using your resources, slowing your computer down. They're not getting any information off your computer, but your computer is slowing down using your resource. Advertising, ransomware, things of that nature are coming up. They aren't really, ransomware is bad, but advertising is just more annoying than anything. user or email credentials. They're sending spam to you. Try to get your credentials. Recover, reset, and other accounts. We've heard about this ransomware attack last couple of weeks ago with the pipeline. This is one thing that troubles me is the big guys, this pipeline company, they have all the resources, the IT department and the money to do all the protection, but how did they get attacked? So the little guy that doesn't have these protections, I would be even more scared because you don't have all these resources and yet the big guys get attacked. So this is why we got to be really cognitive of what's going on. I'm still waiting to find out exactly how this happened. Yes, Jim?
But isn't it a point to make that this cyber attack was a concentrated, directed attack where the ones like on your personal stuff or bots that are just searching for any type of,
It's possible. I don't know if it's directed or not. In fact, the bad guys, they put out an apology saying that they wouldn't do it again to the pipeline because I guess rumor has they got a lot of heat from their government not to do that. Although the government, I don't know, I think it was a group out of Russia. The Russians government really doesn't care. It's giving them income, but I think they got a lot of heat from our government to shut it down. So it happens to the big guys and the little guys. Several hospitals got shut down. Government agencies are a big target right now. Cyber threats. We've got malware. Malware is programs that get put on your computer that you don't want, that may or may not, you take a seat in the back now, that may or may not cause a problem. Sometimes malware just slows your computer down like they're crypto mining. It may be gathering information. Spyware. This is information that gets on your computer and they're monitoring what you're doing. So when you're logging into your bank, they're monitoring all your keystrokes and get your passwords. Phishing attacks. This is the biggest thing from emails, is they send out an email blast to millions of people and they hope that somebody's gonna snag click on their links. Ransomware. We mentioned ransomware. This is where they come into your computer and encrypt everything on your computer and then send you a message saying, please pay us X number of thousands of dollars in Bitcoin and we'll give you back your information. Maybe. Trojans. Trojans are when you download something, and say a legitimate program, you go out and you want this whiz-bang game or application, you download it, works like you're expecting it to, but they've got a back door in there that they've actually put in there to get your information or to leave you some malware. Theft of money. Typically by gift cards. Who's gotten an email lately that's asking you to send them gift cards or buy a gift card? Yeah. And that happens a lot. And I tell people if you get anything that says gift card, hang up on it. Data destruction, where they'll actually go in and destroy your hard drive, completely wipe it out, not for ransom, but just because they can. Drive-by downloads. This is where you go to a website, and that website then downloads information, a program on your computer without your knowledge. You go to the website, and all of a sudden you've got a bad malware on your computer. Rogue software, something you didn't want. Unpatched software. If your operating system and applications need to be updated, mainly because the bad guys, they're figuring out ways to use that software to get into your computer. And there's a lot of holes. Software used to be pretty simple. Now it's billions and billions of lines of code, and the bad guys find all the little holes and they can get into it. Malvertising. That's kind of a strange term, but that's where a program gets put into your computer that brings ads to your computer. You ever go to a website and all of a sudden you got an ad that is applicable to you? You say you're looking for a certain product, and all of a sudden these ads start popping up because you've been there. That's malvertising. They know that you like that product, and they're going to pop it up so you can see it. Drive-by downloads again. Oh, I got that on there twice. Ways to protect yourself. As I mentioned, backup. the computer systems here, if you put your information on the server, it's going to be backed up. If you're at home and you've got your family photos, you've got all your information, back it up. People say, well, I don't know how to back it up. Give me a call. I'll show you how. Microsoft has provided everybody with a OneDrive, which is good. It's not really a backup, but it can be used as a backup. I say you need to have 2 copies of everything, at least 2 copies of anything you really want that you find valuable. So if you back it to the cloud under OneDrive, if you put it on a thumb drive, put it on an external drive, get 2 copies of it. And the second copy shouldn't be something that's plugged into your drive all the time, because I've had instances where the bad guys got in there and they found your backup and they took your backup also along with the data. That happens quite frequently. So if you get a backup to an external drive and take it off. 35% of users never back up. I think it's even higher than that. Users that back up periodically once a year, at least they've got a backup, but within a year's time, how much would you lose? I ask people, if you lost everything today, how long would it take you to recover that? If they say a week, well, then back up once a week. You say every 10 minutes, back up every 10 minutes. Sometimes some critical information changes that frequently. We back up on an hour here. Every hour we do complete backup. Some people back up monthly. Some users back up daily. Daily is probably the most common. Just set your computer with a schedule to back it up. And if you have any questions on backing up, I'll be more than happy to help you set up a backup routine on your computer. There are free backup programs out there that you can use, and there's some paid versions. The paid versions are a little bit better. You get cloud storage with it. Updates. How many people love to do updates? Updates I find to be a challenge because some of the updates break things. As we found here recently, you get an update that Microsoft thinks is so important for you, and all of a sudden you can't print anymore. Your computer's blue screening. You've got other challenges. On the other hand, Microsoft has identified on the Microsoft program that there's a hole in your operating system that they need to plug. Bad guys figured out, so they got to plug it. So they got to come out with a security update. Microsoft a lot of times wants to do what's called a feature update, which is a major update, and they're forcing that on us every 18 months. We've got to do that, whether we like it or not. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good, but we're required to do that. Not only the operating system, but your software. I've seen some people, they'll have an application such as Office. A client I had yesterday, he had a 2010 version of Office, which is very insecure right now. So you need to make sure your applications are updated. On some applications, you've got to buy a whole brand new version to get the latest one. I think it's industry planned obsolescence, so it keeps their money flowing. Every day they're finding new vulnerabilities. Nothing is set and forget. Keeping your system up to date, as I mentioned, your operating system, your antivirus. A lot of people don't even pay attention to their antivirus. Here we update your antivirus on an hourly basis, so it's always updated. Many individual users, they'll buy a brand new computer. It comes with a 6-month subscription of an antivirus program. In 6 months, they've forgotten about it, and it quits working, so it never gets updated. So now, they have no antivirus. Pay for antivirus. It's relatively expensive. There's companies out there you can get it for as little as $35 a year. A lot of companies, it's about $60 a year. But they'll update it, make sure you keep that subscription updated, and don't just set and forget it. Mention here Symantec, Norton, McAfee, Windows Defender. Windows Defender comes in everybody's computer, so you've got that. If you've got that active with Windows 10, it will stay updated. I've heard several controversy that it's not so good. Other people say it's okay. I use Avast myself. It's a free version. It's got a lot of options. And then again, it's for $35 a year. It'll update and keep you a lot of options that the Microsoft version doesn't get you. Your browser. Many people don't realize this, but your browsers change. Originally, we had Internet Explorer, which is gone now. It's still on your computer for compatibility, but it's got a lot of holes in it for the bad guys. Don't use Internet Explorer. Chrome and Firefox are constantly updating those. Make sure you get the current version of those. Many times they'll pop up and automatically update themselves. Microsoft has a new one out. Keep your browser up to date. Mobile devices. Then again, make sure you get your phones are updated on a regular basis. Most of the, and I don't like it either, but your telephone service provider, they're constantly pushing out these updates. You've got to stop and reboot your phone and get the updates. That's a little inconvenient. But on the other hand, they're filling up security holes that they found. Oh, don't forget about the Internet of Things. Who's heard that term, Internet of Things? Basically, what that means is industries created a new category of technology where your thermostats, you can access that off your telephone. You can access your refrigerator off your telephone. Your oven, you can go to your phone and program. Well, all that is accessed through the Internet. So guess what? The bad guys figured out how to get into those devices because they're not very secure. They don't have antivirus. They don't have security. So I've heard instances where a bad guy got into somebody's stove, turned it up to 500 degrees, and left it on and burnt the house. I don't know if they burnt the house down, but they caused a fire. One Internet of Things that's interesting is the Alexa and the Google Home. How many have those? Those are a little iffy. I've got one myself, so I'm a bad guy too. But those things are constantly listening to you. It's going across the country over to Google's servers, interpreting what you're saying, and listening for you to say, hey, Google. Sometimes you don't have to say, hey, Google. If the bad guys figure out how to get in that feed, they're listening to what you're saying. That's being recorded at Google. I have heard, and maybe Jim can verify this, that they keep a record of all that on their servers. It's digital records, so they know what's going on. If they could get a hold of that, so don't say anything bad. And yes.
So I utilize Microsoft Edge here. Is that, but I don't see it up there. Is that one safe for us to use, or should we be using it?
Microsoft Edge is really gone, and well, they've converted to Edge Chrome. It's a new version.
So is that what's on our desktop?
Yes.
Okay.
It looks like a little swirly E.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the Edge Chrome. It's a new version. Yeah, it's still called Edge. It's called Edge Chrome. It's a newer version. The Edge is still okay, but they've kind of abandoned that. And it's really Chrome with Microsoft's lipstick all over it now. That's all it is. Passwords. Who loves passwords? I don't like passwords. When I start in there, our passwords are 4 digits or 4 characters. ABC. We use password a lot. Don't do that. Someone figured out my password. A lot of people like to use the name of their dog, name of their children, their birth date, something that they can remember. Unfortunately, the bad guys can figure that out pretty fast. So how do you keep track of passwords? And every website wants you to use a different password. The rule of thumb is you never use the same password twice. I don't know about you, but I can't remember the password I used this morning. And then they're asking me to change it every so often. Don't use a sticky note. Interesting story I heard last week was, remember that in Hawaii when the air raid went off and they thought they were going to be attacked by some foreign company? Somebody had hacked into their emergency system, and they found out the way they hacked into it, the guy that was in charge of that had his password on the wall and did a selfie. The bad guy saw that, hacked into the system using that password, set off all the civil defense alarms just by having his password up there. So I know when I go into an office, if I don't know somebody's password, pick up the keyboard, look at it, look on the screen, look for a sticky note, and sure enough, I'm going to find a password. Bad karma. Don't store the passwords in clear text. People like to use Word or Excel to put all their passwords in. You can do that. I do that myself. with the exception is I encrypt that file. So when you open up the Excel spreadsheet with your passwords in it, and I've got hundreds of them in there, I have to enter in a master password to ever get into that. So it encrypts it, so if somebody gets a hold of that file, they can't get a hold of your passwords. Probably the best way nowadays is called a password manager. Who uses a password manager? Great idea. It's a cloud-based vault that tracks your passwords. You can enter your password in. When you need to use a password, you can say, enter my password, and it'll fill your password in for you automatically. You don't have to think about it. Thus, you can also use a more complex password because you don't have to remember it all the time. So I use 1Password myself. I've used LastPass, great password. I haven't used KeePass, but any one of those. If the other nice thing about it is you can authorize somebody else to access it, such as a significant other. One thing I found is with passwords, had a lady, her husband passed away. He had all the passwords in his head. Well, she couldn't get into his 401ks, his IRAs, all of his information to close out his business. It took her 6 months. So make sure a significant other has access to these passwords somehow. Keep them in a place. Say, here's all my passwords. But don't post it in clear text. Password manager, you got a single password member, only one password. It's encrypted. It'll fill in the password as you need it. And it'll sync between, you can actually use it between different devices. You can have the password manager on your phone. You can have it on several computers. So you can access it easily. You don't have to, it's not tied to one computer. I like the password manager. Yes? It's encrypted in the cloud. If you get locked, you got to remember that one master password. So, well, as I get older, my cognitive functions are dying. I'm getting. You're absolutely right, and of course, mine's going to mush now. Yes, Richard.
I don't know if this has anything to do with cybersecurity, but it happens to be far too often. It's like with my insurance company, they have various programs that you can take advantage of the federal program. And in order to do this, you have to have a ID and password.
Right.
To it. This is my, I have an insurance company that has a reward program that deals with driving, how fast you drive,
Right.
how often you drive, that kind of thing. And I have to have a password to get into that. And I do so every couple of weeks. I'll check and see how everything's lining up. And it says invalid password. I just changed it, so it's invalid now. So I have to get a hold of the corporation. They have to take me back to the website, disable the original, download, reboot it. I have to give them another password.
Interesting.
Ask about a couple of times, then bingo, it's invalid.
Well, I know a lot of companies they're forcing you to change your password at least every 90 days, but it seems like that's a little more frequent if they're changing and invalidating your password that frequently. Or some websites, if you don't log in on a regular basis, generally it's like 6 months, they'll invalidate your account until you reactivate it for security issues. Creating passwords, big challenge. People like to use the shortest password they can think of. So they put a date in there, they put their dog's name. Avoid using things that are personal to you. I saw a television program, I think on Jay Leno or something like that years ago, where they'd go on the street and they'd start asking people questions like, what's your address, or what's your favorite color? And they would collect those information, and this information is pertinent to their password question. You go to a site and they'll ask you 3 questions like, what's your mother's maiden name, what's your favorite color, all these things. They can collect it just by asking you innocuous questions, that you wouldn't know about. So don't use things that are personal to you. In fact, what I do in a lot of these places, I will use something that's totally out of the picture. They say, "What's your favorite color?" I'll say it's something like some word that has nothing to do with color, but it's just a word that I know that all my questions are answered to, and I don't. So if somebody says, "What's your favorite color?" it doesn't relate. Yes. Yeah, something fake. Yes. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm going for. Just make up something that has nothing relation to the question, or use some fake information that only you know, and don't spread that around. Um, you're supposed to use a separate password for every account. I've got like 300 different accounts, and I can't use a separate password for everyone, even using a password manager. So I have a series of passwords I use, and I have a more complex one I use for banking information, medical information, and for things that throw away passwords, I'll use a more simple password. The password manager can help you generate passwords. Unfortunately, if you get locked out of your password manager, you have no clue what it is, because it's just symbols and numbers. And I've used that as long as you use a password manager appropriately. Passwords. Who's heard of passphrases? Everyone thinks you got to have just a short little word to log in. More and more companies are using passphrases where it's a sentence, where you put spaces in it and punctuation. So you can say the quick brown fox, exclamation point, and that's a valid passphrase now. The longer the better. So the longer passwords, something over 12 characters, it'll take somebody 1,000 years to crack that. Yeah. Yeah, so it'll, the longer the better. An 8 character password, a bad guy can figure that out in about 20 minutes. So you get up to 12 characters, it's about 1,000 years before they can crack with the most advanced computers nowadays. So get a long passphrase. I've got a passphrase now that I use. Unfortunately, a lot of companies still are password-based, so they won't allow you to put spaces in. So I'll use the same passphrase and just take the spaces out. I got to remember that sometimes. My phrase is, no, I can't repeat it in public. That was the test. Bad passwords. And I see this, yes. Mm-hmm. That's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you keep up with a particular method of doing it, that's an excellent way. Because yeah, and don't use password or any variation of password. That is the most commonly used passphrase out there. These are the top ones. I don't know if you can read that or not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Password, QWERTY, the numbers, let me in. These are the number one password. If one of yours is on this list, change it now, or any variation of that. Two-factor authentication. As I mentioned, two-factor authentication is one of the best ways to protect your account. If you've got a weak password, you've got a password that is that can be easily cracked, two-factor will get you in there. Will protect it, because if somebody does get your password, they have to have another method of identifying themselves as you to get into your account. So it blocks them. I wish I would have had this about 8 years ago. I had the Bitcoin account, and I had several Bitcoins in there. Somebody hacked into my account. I didn't have two-factor authentication on it and stole all my Bitcoins. Not a big deal. It's probably $200-300 worth of Bitcoins at the time. Today, they're worth about $120,000. I'm a little angry. On the flip side, I found some Bitcoins in an account the other day that I had a few dollars in. It's worth about $10,000 now. So, win. But the two-factor authentication, people think it's always a text message. It's not necessarily a text message. It's just a separate form of identifying you. It could be an email. The company could send you an email saying, well, this is a code and you need to enter into the system. It could be a question. My bank, they asked me the 3 questions. Who's your favorite girlfriend or whatever? Hope it's my wife. It is. But it's a different form of communication. The one I like with Microsoft is, with the two-factor authentication, is they will call me and they'll say, please press the pound key to authenticate yourself. So I don't have to enter in any numbers. I just hit the pound key and I'm done. Microsoft may call you or send you text message, something that's out of band, that's separate from that website. I haven't tried the carrier pigeon yet. Snail mail, which is referring to U.S. Postal Service, that's used by the government, unfortunately. If you're trying to get into a government account, they will send you a letter with a code on it, and you have to respond back with that code back to get access to your account, especially Social Security. They're real anal about that. Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. Who's familiar with those? I use that quite frequently. It's actually an app on the phone that has a changing number for that account. So every 30 seconds, it puts up a different authentication number. So I've got 20 or 30 of them listed in there. So when I want to go into my bank account, I'll look up the bank there, and this number changes every 30 seconds. I will clock by it, and I got to put the number in before the clock expires, but it's constantly changing. Authy, that's a new one I've been using, especially on my Bitcoin accounts. When I go into my account, they will pop up an app on my phone automatically. I just click on it, it's me, and it gets me in there real quick. So those are, if you're asked what the authenticator, that's the authenticator. I like that one. Unfortunately, right now I've got so many on, it gets a little consuming. It doesn't sort them in alphabetical order, so I got to hunt through it to find who it is now. When I only had 4 or 5 accounts, it was easy. Now I've got 20 accounts, so it's a little bit of a hassle. Just to click. This is very important. And
imagine you're walking down the street one day, minding your own business. Out of the blue, you're approached by a woman you've never met.
Hello, I'm Marjorie Jones. I'm the assistant manager at your bank. See? There seems to be a slight problem with your account, and I just need to verify your account number. Could you tell it to me, please?
Would you tell it to her?
Hey there, how's it going? Got a delivery for you right here. Just need your credit card information.
Would you give it to him?
Greetings. I am a wealthy prince, and I have an inheritance valued at $90 million US. But I need assistance transferring the funds from my country to yours. If you give me just $50, I will repay you with 3% of my fortune.
Would you give him the money? You may be thinking, only a fool would fall for such obvious scams. But smart people fall for such scams all the time when they carelessly open strange messages and click on suspicious links. Falling prey to phishing can be a big problem for you and the company. That's why you need to be on guard for phishing attempts, no matter where they come from.
now we say, well, who'd fall for some of those? Believe me, it happens on a regular basis. Unfortunately, the younger crowd's getting smarter with it, but years ago when I first got in here, they call it the Nigerian scam. I almost fell for that. I thought, well, some guy out in Africa is wanting to, for $50, send me all this money. I responded to that. I didn't send him any money, but it's like that was intriguing before I learned about this stuff. Nowadays, I don't do it. The younger people, they're more aware of things like that going on. Unfortunately, the older crowd, where I'm approaching or in there now, they don't realize that, especially when they come up with a scam such as, I'm your grandson from a previous marriage. I'm in jail. I need some bond money to get out of jail. Well, they send them some money. It's all a scam, and it happens frequently. I hate to say it, but they're taking advantage of, the older crowd is taking advantage, and they fall for those things because they don't have the knowledge of some of this stuff that we're going through today. Phishing scams are the most prolific, and as I mentioned earlier, it is the easiest way for somebody to get your information. They could, phishing scam, they're going to send an email, they may ask you, such as happened here recently. An email went out from Lynn, supposedly from Lynn, had her name all over it, and asking to send some gift cards. Well, it wasn't from Lynn. It was from somebody else posing as her, and what they're going to have you do is go out and buy the gift cards, scratch off the code, take a picture of it. They're going to see that and go cash in the gift cards for you. That is one of the biggest things. If anybody asks for a gift card, it's going to be fake. Another one I've seen quite frequently is they will pose as your supervisor and say, I need to have you wire this money to such and such a client. So the unknowing person wires $50,000 to this account. Then they go talk to their employer, and he says, no, I didn't do that, and it's gone. So if you get anything that says it's from somebody, inspect it, verify it. Were you expecting something from that person? Not just email, but a phone call. Social media, SMS messaging is real popular now. Second thing, hover over it. It may have a person's name in the email address. Take your mouse and don't click on it, just hover over it. It'll pop up a little box saying who the email really is. It may say, Joe. Hover over it, and the email address is not Joe's email. It's something else. First red flag. Next flag, if it says it's from Microsoft, a lot of companies will have an email address that's similar to Microsoft. Might just misspell it enough to where when you glance at it, it looks like it's really from Microsoft. Go down to the link, probably say, I've seen it, in fact, recently, I almost clicked on it. It said, your account's getting ready to expire. Well, I didn't realize that, so I hovered over it, and it had some long address ending in JP, which comes out of Japan. Big red flag. It's not part of Microsoft. Microsoft's big one. PayPal's another big one. Amazon's a huge one, right? Everybody's trying to get you to click on it so they can get your Amazon account. So hover over the link. Don't ever click on the link until you're absolutely sure what it is. If it does pass those, click on it and see what it's asking you to do. If it's asking you to log in, I would hang up at that point. I would close it and log into it from my regular way. So if it's Microsoft, go to the Microsoft account. Don't use the link. In the address bar, type in Microsoft.com or whatever the link is and verify that's really what it is. Fortunately, and we're rolling it out here, if you do click on it, the software is going to know that it's a bad site and block you from going through it. So it stopped me several times. I'll see something that looks legitimate, I'll click on it, and it will put up a big red flag saying, hey, don't go here, I won't let you here because it's a phishing scam. The sniff test, it just doesn't feel right. Let's say you get an email from Amazon, for instance, and it says your account's ready to expire. Well, your account doesn't expire with Amazon. That just doesn't sound right. Everything, you got the logos, you got all the links, they look right, but it just doesn't sound right. You need to go to that person or that company and find out, is it legitimate or not. So don't just click on things, although they're getting better. Unfortunately, the bad guys, years ago, you could tell it was not from that person because the grammar was wrong, spelling was incorrect. It just didn't look right. Nowadays, they're getting smart. They realize they've improved their English. They've gotten the logos. They know how to trick you. Email, everything allowed. If it's, I don't see Viagra anymore. I used to get on a regular basis Viagra or something like that, and you knew it was spam. Strange wording, as I mentioned. Email address doesn't look right. The domain name. Pay attention to the domain name. It might have the right person's name on it, but the domain name might not be right. If it says Microsoft and it's Mike Zerosoft or something like that, don't go there. Were you expecting it? Does it sound intriguing? Are they asking you to do something immediate? Your password's expired. You got to change it today. Known email examples. Email address looks okay. The name looks okay. But the signature line, and I've had this problem with some, I got some automatic emails that go out that have a different signature line than I normally use. And fortunately, I get calls on them. People call and say, "Is this really you?" Because it's different than what I normally send out. And I've had people that hacked into an email account, and they're sending out email, legitimate email from that person's account, but they don't have the signature line proper. So something to look for. Were you expecting it? If the last characters in the email ends in something other than a .com or something you're familiar with, like in this instance says FR, which is France, or RU for Russia, or JP for Japan, something that, are you expecting email out of the country? It's another red flag. Is any of you getting these text messages that are scams? I'm getting a lot of those. And I got taken for one. A company, it was T-Mobile, sent me a message saying that they had a special offer for me. It's a free product, just pay for shipping. Okay, something I wanted. So I clicked on it, paid my money, got the product, so a legitimate product. But then next month I got a charge on my credit card for $100 and something. And so that wasn't part of the deal, but they got my credit card information now. Now they're charging my credit card for all kinds of stuff. And I found it was a company in Saudi Arabia. And so I didn't get my money back, but I had to change all my credit card accounts, and it was a mess. Text messages, a lot of them will come with just a short, not a phone number, but just like a short message on there. Inspect them. Just like an email, don't click on it or respond to it unless you know for sure it's something legitimate. Hover before you click. Numbers instead of letters means that in the email they use a bunch of numbers rather than a name. Hover over it. If you're on your tablet, you don't have a mouse to hover over, so you just push on it. Just hold it long press. It'll pop up the actual address. And if you doubt it, like I said, contact the person directly. Find out if it's legitimate or not. Hover. This is a common theme throughout this, hovering. Double check it, because there's a way to take a link and change its content. So it could just be word. It could just say click here. If you hover over it, it'll give you the real shortened names. Some email addresses or web links, I should say, they will put a legitimate web link on there. They might say www.microsoft.com. If you hover over it, it's not. It's some other link. Where they can shorten it to make it look like something more legitimate. 92% of malware is delivered by email. As I mentioned, email is, and email is something, we get a lot of email. We get a lot of spam email, and we're clicking on things. I don't care if you got antivirus software, you got all the security. If you click on it, you're opening the front door, letting the bad guys in without any inspection. Yes. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's an old technique that it's very valuable, where you can go to Microsoft or Google and get a free email account and send all those sent out there. I find it a little challenging, because then I got all these, because some of the stuff I want, but you're right. You get spam. I get hundreds of emails a day. If you have an attachment, this is the biggest thing. And if you get an email in, it says something about, hey, I've sent you an invoice. I think we got them out here before, where you get an invoice. It says, okay, attaches your invoice. Please pay immediately. Well, my first inclination is click on it and see what the invoice is all about, because there's no information in the body of the text. So I open up the invoice. Nothing happens. It's just blank. Well, what's happened is they've made it look like a PDF file, but it's actually launching a program to download a program onto your computer. So if you got an attachment and you're not expecting it, stop. Do the sniff test. Is it something that is legitimate? Other email scams, spear phishing. As we mentioned, the email comes in from your superior. If they want gifts or prepaid cards, bad. Wire transfers, bad. They're wanting you to do it now, because now's the urgency. Question it. Reach out and scam someone. Phone scams. We've gone through that a little bit. Get phone call from the Social Security Administration. I had one that was from the IRS. IRS called me and says, hey, you're delinquent on your taxes. We're going to freeze all your accounts. Please call us now or stay on hold. I played with the guy for a while, and he realized I was phishing him, and he hung up on me, so I kept calling him back. He finally got irritated with me. And that's an important thing, because if you get a phone call from somebody that claims to be from Microsoft, or you feel it's a scam, start asking questions. I got one recently from Encore, saying that I was late on my electric bill, and I need to pay $700 to get caught up on electric bill. Everybody's going to shut off my electricity in 30 minutes. So I started asking questions. Well, what bill is this? How much is it? How can I verify this? Because I knew it was a scam. I got so far down the list, and they just hung up on me. So I called them back and went through the whole process again. They hung up on me again. So they know if there's phishing. So start asking questions. Don't just fall for it. Grandparent scam, went over that. Tech support, Microsoft. And the Microsoft scam, don't ever let somebody remote into your computer unless you know exactly who they are. And I hate to say it, but if they've got a foreign accent, question it. Yeah, I had a client just last week. They got the scam where they got the message on the screen saying that your computer's infected with the virus. Please call this number immediately. So they called the number, let the guy remote into their computer, sniffed around, and said, oh yeah, you got all these viruses on here. We need to take them off. It'll cost you $400. I went through this one time playing with the guy, and all of a sudden my password started scrolling up the screen. So they were trying to get all the passwords out of my computer. I pulled the plug out of the wall immediately to stop that. But they are good, and they will get you to pay some money. I had a couple of weeks ago a client. They gave them the credit card information. They gave them their Social Security number. They gave them their date of birth, and all this information. And then they realized it was a scam. So now they're having to change all their bank accounts, credit cards, and monitor their credit, because now they're giving all the information away. Phone scams. There again. Microsoft will never call you. USB drives. If you don't know where the USB drive came from, there is actually a USB drive out there. I've got one. You can plug it in your computer. It will load software immediately, and it will monitor all your activity on that computer and transmit it to some foreign agency. Encryption. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it happens a lot. It used to be floppy disks. You say never put a floppy in, but now it's USB drives. Encryption. When you go to a website, pay attention up in the address bar. does it say HTTP or HTTPS? Very important. If it says HTTP, everything you type in is in clear text. If you type in your password, you type in personal information, anybody between you and them on the World Wide Web can see that. And there are companies out there that monitor your feeds. And if they see that, they've got all your information. HTTPS means that that connection's encrypted. So it just looks like a bunch of gobbledygook to anybody that happens to intersect that transmission, and it gives you a layer of protection. If it's HTTP, it means that they're probably not a legitimate site. Most legitimate sites are going to have the encryption technology built into it. On your devices, this is something that's really important as far as how to manage it. A lot of the newer computers, laptops, the hardwares are coming encrypted by default, which means everything on the drive, if I would lose the drive and couldn't log into it, everything's encrypted. And if it's not encrypted, I could take the hard drive out, plug it into my computer, and read everything on the hard drive in clear text, see all your information. So encrypting it is a good idea. On the other hand, there is an encryption key that you need to keep in a safe place. I had an instance where a client, his hard drive, when I couldn't boot the computer up. So I needed to take his hard drive out and get all of his information off it. Well, I couldn't because we didn't have the encryption key. So he lost all the information off of there. So if you don't know how, you think your drive's, to know if your drive's encrypted, when you go to the Explorer, you'll see a little lock next to it. If you got a lock next to it, it means BitLocker is enabled and it's encrypted. There's a process to go in and get that key, print it out, or save it someplace. So if you do need to get into that drive without logging in, you can access the drive. Microsoft uses BitLocker. Microsoft has their version. You can encrypt I think most phones are coming encrypted by default now. So if you lose your phone, and phones, I don't know about your phone, but I got everything in my whole life's in my phone. My authenticator, I've got all my passwords for everything. So my phone, if I lose it, and if it wasn't encrypted, I could be really at risk. Internet safety. Look for that HTTPS in the address bar. Different sites are going to, they often ask you, pay attention to what pops up on the screen. You go to a website and they'll say, are you going to allow us to send you information? If you click on that, you just opted into their email program. Or you've opted into maybe downloading some advertising software. Don't use public computers. You don't know where the connection is. Public Wi-Fi, bad karma. I can go to any place. I can set up my own personal Wi-Fi, mimicking the public Wi-Fi's name and password, but I'm gathering your information through my Wi-Fi. I did a seminar here a couple of years ago, and that's exactly what the demonstration was. He put up a public Wi-Fi, and when he came up to do his seminar, he says, okay, who's so-and-so? Guy raised his hand. He says, come on up here. He says, is this your password? Quoted him. The guy just said, yeah, it is. So you go to public Wi-Fi, it could be fake, and somebody could have been hacking into it because you don't know what's going on with that Wi-Fi. Most Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fis have a simple password. Social media links, especially like Facebook. Internet privacy. The bad guys want the information off your computer. They don't just want to. In the older days, it was a lot of high school kids and college kids learning how to, do computer work. They would hack into things just to say Joe was here, and just kind of make life miserable for you. Now they've actually found out how to get that information and sell it on the internet. So they're making billions of dollars with this now. If you got photos, don't post them on Facebook, especially if you're going on vacation. Don't say, hey, we're going on vacation. We're going to be gone for 3 weeks. Here's a picture of us in Hawaii. Guess what? The bad guys can see that. They can go by your house and rob your house. And when you come home, you may have a surprise. Don't put on the internet anything you would not want the public to see. Okay, we made it through. Questions?